Hello, Assalamu alaikum. So today we are going to discuss one of the basic concepts of the graph of functions, and we are going to see some of the basic shapes of the graph of functions. So first of all, we are having here is a linear function. So in a linear function, if it's y is equals to x and x is positive, then your graph will always move from left to right in the upward direction. So it will always be the upward direction. And just always remember this key point, that for reading the graph you have to always see the graph from left to right. So if I can see the graph from left to right, it's going upward because x is positive. Similarly, if your x is negative, then your gradient will be declining. So from left to right, your straight line graph will be going downward. So a linear function will always have a straight line. If it's positive, it will be going upward from left to right. If it's negative, it will be going downward from left to right. So it's just the basic shape which you need to understand and memorize. Next one is a quadratic function. Quadratic function is the one in which the variable maximum power is 2. So if your quadratic function x squared is positive, so you can clearly see that your graph would be in the shape of U, and that will be moving, opening upward. And similarly, if your graph is in the form of a quadratic function but it's a negative, then your graph will be moving downward like this. It will be opening downward. So you can remember it from the sets as well, that if its x square is positive, it will be a U-shaped union, and if your x square is negative, it will be a intersection shape or the U-shape opening downward. Now the next one is the cubical function. Cubical function is the one in which the variable is having a maximum power of 3. So it is always in the shape of this curve, in the curve going upward if your x cube is positive. Like if your x cube is positive means that your x cube should not be negative. Then see, the curve will be going from left to right in the upward direction like this. And if your x cube is negative, then your curve will be moving from left to right downward like this. So these are the basic shapes which you need to understand for the cubic function as well. Okay, next one is the reciprocal function. Now, what is a reciprocal function? The function in which the variable comes in the denominator is known as the reciprocal function. So you can see the first one, if your x is positive but it is in the denominator, so your curve would be in such a way that it would be lying in the first and the third quadrant like this. And it will be a curve shape, and the important thing is it will be never touching the origin. It will be parallel to the axis of y-axis and x-axis, but it will never intersect or pass through the origin because it becomes undefined at x is equals to 0. Similarly, if your function is negative and it is in the denominator like negative 1 over x, then it will lie in the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. The curve lies in the second and fourth quadrant. So this shape is easy to memorize, and if we divide the graph and the axis in 4 quadrants, that for positive 1 over x, it is in the first and the third. For negative 1 over x, it is in the second and fourth. Right? Okay, the next one is if it is reciprocal but it comes with a square as well. So if it is 1 over x squared, both the curves will be lying in the first and the second quadrant. They will be lying in the first and they will be lying in the second quadrant. All will be opening upward. But if it's a function in such a way that it is in a reciprocal with a square like negative 1 over x squared, then they both will be lying in the third and the fourth quadrant, and the curve would be opening downward. So these are the keywords or the terms which you need to memorize, and this is for the basic concept of Edexcel Pearson's graph of functions. So I hope the concept would be clear.